Widow Elena Shaw entered Luca Moretti's restaurant carrying the ledger she had stolen before his empire collapsed. Every guard expected the Mafia boss to kill her. But Luca ordered them outside and gave her 1 hour to speak. Elena placed a bloodstained hospital bracelet beside the ledger. Then Luca saw his own family seal stamped beneath the patient's name and realized someone had been waiting for her return. The restaurant had closed 3 hours earlier. Yet every table remained set beneath the amber lights. White cloths covered the chairs. Crystal glasses caught reflections from the rain beyond the tall front windows. Elena stood alone near the center table. Wearing a dark wool coat over the plain black dress she had chosen for her husband's funeral 6 years ago. She had altered the waist since then, but not the length. The dress still reached her calves, and its deep pockets still held the things she needed when grief left no room for a handbag. Tonight, one pocket carried a flash drive. The other carried a folded medical authorization she had no legal right to possess. The ledger rested beneath her hands. Its red leather cover had been rubbed pale at the corners, and a black burn mark crossed the Moretti crest stamped into the center. Luca had searched for that book through 3 police raids, 2 federal investigations, and the slow dismantling of the organization his father had built. Elena had kept it hidden in a place no Moretti man would willingly disturb. Inside her husband's sealed burial vault, Luca stood across the table without sitting. 6 years had added silver at his temples and removed the easy arrogance she remembered from the nights when politicians waited outside his office. He wore a charcoal suit with no tie. A narrow scar crossed his left knuckle, and another disappeared beneath the collar of his shirt. Elena knew about the first scar. She had watched him break that hand against a warehouse wall after learning his younger cousin had died during the raid she caused. She had never seen the second. 1 hour, Luca said. At midnight, I decide whether you leave. You already decided not to kill me when I crossed the door. Do not mistake delay for mercy. Mercy is rarely immediate. His gaze lowered to the hospital bracelet. The translucent plastic was smeared with dried blood near the clasp. Beneath the printed patient name, Elena Shaw. A small silver seal showed a woman holding a lamp between 2 open hands. Most people would have assumed it was a hospital charity mark. Luca knew better. His mother had designed that seal 30 years earlier for the Moretti Mercy Fund, a private account that paid for medical care when families could not risk public questions. Patients carrying the mark were supposed to receive treatment without delay, without police notification, and without any debt being collected from them later, after his mother died. Luca had closed the fund. At least, he had believed he closed it. Where did you get this? He asked. St. Agnes Community Hospital. The Mercy Fund has not operated in 9 years. The account still paid Eli's admission charge tonight. Luca looked toward the guards stationed near the kitchen and front entrance. Marco, a broad man in his 40s, stepped forward. Elena remembered him from the old days, but he showed no sign that he recognized her. Check the fund, Luca said. Do not call the hospital. Do not use a Moretti line. Yes, boss. And take everyone outside. Marco looked at Elena, then at the ledger. Everyone. You heard me. She handed the police your location. She is also the only person here who knows why that seal is active. Marco's jaw tightened, but he led the other guards through the kitchen exit. Luca waited until the door shut. Then he placed his pistol on the table, not within Elena's reach, and not aimed at her. If you brought men with you, they will die before they enter. I came alone. You said that 6 years ago. 6 years ago. I told you the police were coming. 20 minutes before they came. Enough time for you to leave. Not enough time to move. 40 men and 3 years of records. The records were already gone. Luca's eyes sharpened. Because you stole them. Because someone else planned to burn them. You expect me to believe you preserved my accounts out of loyalty. No. Elena placed one finger against the ledger's scorched cover. I preserved the only evidence that could tell me who marked a 12-year-old boy for death. Rain tapped against the windows. Luca did not move. Eli was 12 when I betrayed you. The word tasted as bitter as it had every day since. She did not soften it. She had given the police Luca's location. She had copied schedules from his office. She had told an investigator which warehouse would hold the family council on the night of the raid. Men were arrested. 2 officers were wounded. Luca's cousin died when a frightened guard fired through a loading door. Elena's husband, David, disappeared before dawn and was found dead 3 days later inside his burned car. Whatever reason Elena offered could not return any of them. Who is Elena Shaw? Luca asked. David's son. Your husband never mentioned a son, because Eli's mother took him out of state after the divorce. She died when he was 11. David brought him home quietly. Why? Quietly, because Eli had seen something in St. Agnes Hospital. What? That is what the ledger may tell us. Luca's expression hardened. You carried this book for 6 years without opening it. I opened it. I read every number. Payment. Burial account. Medical transfer. Bribe. And false invoice. None of them meant anything until tonight. You were my compliance director. Numbers always meant something to you. Numbers mean what the person building the system allows them to mean. Elena removed the folded authorization from her pocket and laid it beside the bracelet. At 7:14 this evening, Eli was brought into St. Agnes with a gunshot wound below his ribs. No wallet. No telephone. No next of kin form. The hospital entered him under the Mercy Fund before anyone confirmed his identity. How did they identify him? They did not. Then how did his name reach the bracelet? It was already waiting in the system. Luca looked at the printed name again. Someone expected him to be admitted. Someone expected him to be shot. The kitchen lights flickered. Elena glanced toward the darkened doorway. Luca did not. Continue. A nurse called me from Eli's emergency contact file. She sounded frightened. She told me not to speak to hospital security because the security supervisor had arrived before the ambulance. When I reached the emergency room, the supervisor was gone. Eli had already been moved to a private floor. Is he alive? He was when I left. Why did you leave him? The accusation struck harder because Elena had asked herself the same question during every mile to the restaurant, because he opened his eyes for less than a minute and told me to bring the ledger to Luca Moretti. Luca's controlled stillness broke by a fraction. He knows my name. He has known it since he was 12. From David, from the man he saw at the hospital, who he never told us. Every time David asked. Eli stopped speaking. He would not sleep with the door closed. He covered mirrors because he believed someone watched from behind them. David took him to 3 therapists. Nothing helped. And your solution was to steal from me and call the police. My solution came after I found Eli's name inside your ledger. Luca pulled out the chair opposite her and sat. It was not relaxation. It was a decision to listen without surrendering position. Show me. Elena opened the ledger. The pages were crowded with handwritten codes. Narrow columns. And small colored marks added by different accountants over 2 decades. Luca's father had preferred paper because he believed computers created witnesses. Elena had learned the book's structure during the years she audited the family's legitimate restaurants, construction companies, and medical charities. The criminal accounts hid beneath ordinary expenses. But the deception followed a pattern. A funeral donation might pay for a weapon. A building repair could finance a bribe. A medical transfer sometimes meant exactly what it said, and sometimes meant a person had been moved without legal record. Eli's name is not written here, Elena said. His patient number is... She turned to a page near the ledger's center. The bracelet shows 9 digits. The first 4 identify St. Agnes. The final 5 match this Mercy Fund payment. Luca leaned closer without touching the page. The entry had been written 6 years earlier. Elena recognized the date because it was 2 nights before the raid. Sir, 3,186. Emergency relocation. Witness minor. Authorization L. M. Final disposition before sunrise. L. M. Luca said. My initials. Yes. You believed I ordered a child killed. Final disposition was the phrase your father used when he wanted a problem removed permanently. It was also used for relocation. Not with a sunrise deadline. Luca read the entry again. Who wrote this line? I thought you did. That is not my handwriting. The initials are yours. Initials can be copied. The authorization mark could not. Elena pointed to a small diagonal cut through the M. Luca used that mark on sensitive orders because his father had taught him never to write a full signature beside a crime. Only you, your father, and Gabriel Vieri knew that mark. Luca looked up. Gabriel died before the raid. His body was never recovered. His car went into the river. A car is not a body. You blamed a dead man because it was easier than admitting what you did. I blamed you. Elena did not raise her voice. That was easier. The sentence reached him. Anger moved through his face, followed by something quieter. You never confronted me. I tried. When? The afternoon before the raid. I waited outside your office for 3 hours. I was meeting city officials. Gabriel came out twice. The second time, he told me you had confirmed the order and that David would die too if I interfered. And you believed him. I believed the ledger. Luca shut the book with one hand. The sound struck through the empty restaurant. Men died because you believed a page. A boy lived because I acted. Did he? Luca pointed at the bloodstained bracelet. He is lying in a hospital with a bullet inside him. Elena's grief rose, but she held it behind her ribs. For 6 years. Yes, he lived, and David did not. The words left no room for defense. Gabriel's men took him from our home while I was speaking to the police. I was promised protection if I delivered your location. The police protected me. They never knew David and Eli existed until it was too late. You traded my men for your family. I traded your location for 20 minutes. You knew the police would raid. I knew they would interrupt an execution scheduled before sunrise. You could have warned me why. I believed you signed it. Luca stood so quickly, the chair struck the floor behind him. His pistol remained on the table. If I had ordered that boy's death, why would you come back? Because the seal on his bracelet belongs to your mother. That does not answer me. Your mother built the Mercy Fund because she believed the family could choose not to become its worst men. If someone reopened the account tonight, they wanted me to see that seal. They wanted me to bring the ledger to you. Or you reopened it. I do not have access. You once had access to everything. 6 years ago, you carried the ledger. You knew my restaurant. You knew I would spare you long enough to ask questions. Elena watched the wound beneath his anger. Luca did not want to kill her. That frightened him more than hatred would have. Mercy could become weakness in his world. And weakness invited someone else to decide the cost. You spared me because you remember David, she said. Luca looked toward the windows. David treated my mother when every private doctor refused to enter our house. He believed care was not a reward for good behavior. He also told me you were the only person who could make numbers confess. David believed too much in both of us. The kitchen lights flickered again, then went dark. A metal lock engaged inside the rear door. Luca reached for his pistol. Elena looked toward the front entrance. The brass bolts mounted above the double doors began sliding into place on their own. Are those connected to your security? She asked. No. Then someone changed your building. Luca crossed to the front windows and pulled the curtain aside. The street outside remained wet and empty. No guards stood beneath the awning. Marco's car remained parked near the corner, but its driver door hung open. Your men are gone, Elena said. Luca tried his phone. No signal. He lifted the restaurant's landline. Silence. Stay behind the bar. Do not order me into a corner. Someone has sealed the exits. Then I need to see which exits. Luca turned toward her. The old Luca would have grabbed her arm, moved her, and called it protection. This man stopped. Your choice, he said, but stay where I can reach you. That is not the same as permission. No. The difference mattered. Elena took the ledger and bracelet. Luca moved toward the kitchen. She followed 3 steps behind. The kitchen's emergency lights cast a red glow over copper pans and stainless counters. The rear door's mechanical handle had been chained from the outside. A service elevator beside the pantry displayed the number 3, though the restaurant occupied only 2 floors and a basement. What is on 3? Elena asked. Nothing. The upper level was removed during renovation. The elevator thinks otherwise. A bell sounded. The doors opened. No one stood inside. A small medical cooler rested on the floor. Blood marked one side. Luca held Elena back with his forearm, but did not touch her body. Do you recognize it? He asked. Saint-Agne Transport Modèle. Do not open it. It may contain medication Eli needs. Orabum. Elena crouched without approaching. A printed label had been attached to the cooler's handle. Elena Shaw. Delivery accepted by Elena Shaw. Time 1118 p.m. They entered my name before I arrived, she said. Luca checked the kitchen clock. 11:18. The label printed at the exact minute the elevator opened. The hospital system and this building are connected. Through the Mercy Fund, through whoever controls it. The service elevator doors began to close. Elena caught the edge with the heel of her shoe. Luca pulled the cooler clear before the doors shut. He set it on the kitchen floor and examined the seams. No wires. You cannot tell that from the outside. I have opened worse things. That is not reassuring. He found the release and lifted the lid. Inside lay no medication. A disposable telephone rested on ice packs beside an empty syringe and a sealed vial labeled potassium chloride. The telephone rang. Luca answered without speaking. A distorted voice came through the speaker. Midnight. Luca, bring the ledger to St. Agnes. Bring the widow. No guards. Let me speak to Eli. The boy remembers what Elena wanted him to forget. Who is this? Ask her why David Shaw died believing she chose you. The call ended. Elena stopped breathing. Luca looked at her across the open cooler. What did that mean? I do not know. You are lying. I do not know how they know what David believed. What did he believe? Elena closed the cooler and stood. That I loved you. Silence replaced every mechanical sound in the kitchen. Luca's face became unreadable. 6 years earlier, Elena had been married. Luca had been engaged to a woman chosen by his father. Nothing physical had happened between them. No promise had been spoken. Yet there had been nights when Luca remained in the accounting office after everyone left, asking questions he could have sent through assistants. Elena had understood the books better than any man in his organization. Luca had listened when she challenged him. Respect became warmth before either of them admitted it. David saw the warmth. He also saw Elena return home later each week, carrying concern for a dangerous man she claimed to despise. Did you? Luca asked. Elena looked at the vial, the empty syringe, and Eli's blood on the bracelet. That is not why David died. It is not what I asked. Midnight is in 40 minutes. You came here after 6 years and placed a ledger between us. Do not use the clock now. I cared about you. Her voice stayed steady because regret deserved precision. I hated what you controlled. I hated what your family did. I also believed you could choose differently. Until you saw my initials. Then I believed I had imagined the man beneath them. Luca's eyes lowered. You called the police because you thought I ordered Eli's death. Yes. And because you believed David would never forgive what you felt for me. Elena's throat tightened. David already knew. Did he ask you to leave? He asked me to tell you about Eli. He believed you would stop the order. But you did not. I was afraid David trusted your mercy because he had once saved your mother. I trusted the ledger because numbers did not love anyone. Numbers also did not tell you who held the pen. I know. That was Elena's failure. And she would not hide it behind sacrifice. She had made the decision alone. She had refused David's faith, refused Luca the chance to answer, and trusted an official raid to save people a criminal system threatened. Her choice saved Eli that night. It also helped kill men who never knew why police came through the doors. If you want an apology that erases the raid, I cannot give it, she said. If you want the truth, I betrayed you because I believed you had condemned a child. I was wrong not to confront you. I may have been wrong about the order, but I will not apologize for keeping Eli alive. Luca looked at the bracelet. The Moretti seal shone beneath the blood. You said Eli told you to bring the ledger to me. Yes. What were his exact words? Elena closed her eyes. Returning to the hospital room, Eli's skin had been gray beneath the oxygen mask. His fingers gripped hers with unexpected strength. He said, "Take the red book to Luca. Tell him his mercy was stolen." Luca's expression changed. My mother used that phrase. What phrase? Mercy can be stolen when good men leave it unguarded. She wrote it inside the original fund charter. Who else knew Gabriel? My father. David. He helped her build the patient rules. Elena looked at the ledger. Then David knew the Mercy Fund codes. Yes. Why did he never tell me? Because the fund treated women and children hiding from men connected to my family. Names were protected even from spouses. The old landline on the kitchen wall rang. Luca lifted it. A woman spoke before he could answer. Her voice was weak and hurried. Mr. Moretti. I am a nurse at St. Agnes. They moved Elena Shaw from surgery. Who moved him? Hospital security. They had your family authorization. I gave no authorization. I know. That is why I called the restaurant number in his chart. Elena stepped closer. Is Eli conscious? He was for a minute. He kept asking for Mrs. Shaw, he said. The ledger has 2 covers. Elena looked down at the red leather book. What does that mean? I don't know. They're coming back. The nurse lowered her voice. The transfer form says St. Agnes Chapel. Midnight. A door opened on her end. The call cut off. Luca took the ledger from the counter only after looking at Elena. May I? Yes. He turned it over. The back cover showed no lock or seam. Only the burn mark crossing the crest. Elena had examined it hundreds of times. She had never removed the leather because damaging an original ledger could destroy its value as evidence. Luca pressed his thumb against the blackened portion. The leather shifted. This burn happened before my father gave me the book. He said, it may hide a repair. Elena retrieved a thin paring knife from the kitchen's pastry station. Luca raised an eyebrow. A compliance director with a knife. A widow, trapped in a restaurant. She slipped the blade beneath the damaged leather and lifted carefully. A second layer appeared under the red cover. Black leather. Luca held the ledger while Elena separated the old adhesive along one edge. The hidden layer opened like a narrow pocket. Inside lay 3 folded pages and a child's hospital photograph. Elena recognized Eli immediately. He was 12 in the picture. Seated on an examination table at St. Agnes, David stood behind him. Another man had been cut from the photograph, but a hand remained on Eli's shoulder. The hand wore Luca's family ring. That is not me, Luca said. The ring belonged to your father. My father was dead before Eli came to the city. Elena turned the photograph over. A date had been written in David's handwriting, 2 weeks before Luca's father officially died. Beneath it, David had written one sentence. Luca must never see the boy until Gabriel is removed. Luca unfolded the first hidden page. It was an original Mercy Fund patient list signed by his mother. Eli's name did not appear. The second page was a private amendment signed years later by David Shaw. It authorized emergency protection for one unnamed child witness and directed all alerts to Gabrielle Vieri. The third page carried a handwritten execution order using Luca's initials and authorization mark. Elena had seen a copied version in the main ledger. This was the original. Luca held it beneath the kitchen light. The ink is wrong, he said. How do you know? My father required blue-black ink for permanent orders. This is gray. That does not prove forgery. No. Luca touched the diagonal cut through the M. But this mark was made by pressing a ring into wet ink. I stopped wearing that ring after my mother died. When 8 years before the raid, Elena looked at the execution order. Then someone used an old impression. Someone who had access to my ring. Gabriel. Or David. The possibility hurt because it was fair. Elena examined the photograph again. David had known the patient rules. David had hidden documents inside the ledger. David had written that Luca must not see Eli until Gabriel was removed. Why would my husband forge an order against his own son? She asked. To make you act. He told me to trust you. He may have changed his mind. After what Luca pointed to the altered photograph. After learning who the boy's father was. Elena's fingers went cold. David was Eli's father. Was he? The service elevator bell sounded again. Its doors opened without the car arriving. Darkness filled the shaft. From somewhere below came a metallic strike, followed by Marco's voice, calling weakly for Luca. Luca moved toward the opening. Elena caught his sleeve. It could be a recording. Marco is outside. Marco was outside. The voice came again. "Boss." Luca crouched near the shaft but did not enter. A telephone began ringing inside the darkness. Elena took the disposable phone from the cooler. Its screen remained blank. The ringing came from below. Luca found the emergency ladder behind the elevator panel. "You stay here." "No. Marco may be injured, and the person who sealed the restaurant may be beneath us." "That is why you stay." Elena released his sleeve. "Give me options." He looked at her, anger and fear arriving together. Then he corrected himself. "You come behind me and keep the ledger inside your coat. Or you remain here with the service door locked from your side. Behind you. If I tell you to climb, you climb. If you explain what you see." "Agreed." Luca entered the shaft first. Elena followed, keeping one hand on the ladder and the ledger pressed beneath her coat. The descent ended one floor below the basement. In an old storage corridor Luca claimed did not exist. Marco lay beside a steel door with blood across his forehead. He was alive, but his wrists had been bound with hospital tubing. Luca cut him free. Who did this? Marco struggled to focus. Men from St. Ang. They had the family seal. How did they enter? Service tunnel from the old clinic. Elena looked toward the steel door. "This restaurant connects to the hospital. It connected to a Moretti charity clinic 30 years ago." Luca said. "My father sealed the passage." Marco gripped Luca's sleeve. "They took the others. Said they would trade them at midnight. For the ledger. For the widow." Elena felt Luca turn toward her. Before either spoke, the telephone on the floor beside Marco rang. Luca answered. A man's natural voice replaced the distortion this time. "Olda. Calm." Familiar enough to change Luca's face before the first sentence ended. "You finally opened the second cover." The man said, "Bring Elena through the tunnel. Luca, bring the ledger. And I will let the boy live long enough to tell you why his father chose her betrayal over your mercy." Luca's hand tightened around the telephone. "Gabriel." A quiet laugh crossed the line. "Midnight. Do not be late." The call ended. Elena looked at the hidden execution order inside the ledger, then at the dark passage leading toward St. Agnes Hospital. Gabriel Vieri had not died in the river. He had controlled the Mercy Fund, forged Luca's authorization, waited 6 years for Elena to return, and now held Eli somewhere beyond the sealed steel door. Luca picked up his pistol, but he did not point it toward the tunnel. He looked at Elena first. If we open that door, he will use every life behind it to make us obey. Then we do not enter as the people he remembers. Who do we enter? As Elena placed the bloodstained hospital bracelet around her wrist and closed the clasp over Gabriel's stolen seal. A man willing to spare the woman who betrayed him, she said. And the woman who finally knows she may have betrayed the wrong man. Marco tried to stand, but one knee collapsed beneath him. Luca caught his arm and lowered him against the wall. Blood continued to move from the cut near his hairline. "You cannot follow us," Luca said. "I can walk. You cannot see straight. There are 8 men missing. Then help them by staying conscious." Luca gave Marco the disposable phone and explained how to reach the restaurant's manual alarm once the signal returned. "Do not call Moretti captains. Call emergency services and Lena Porter. The attorney. Tell her the Mercy Fund is active and Gabriel Vieri is alive." Marco stared at him. "If Lena receives the ledger, every family account opens. I know. You could lose everything." Luca looked at Elena. "Everything is already inside the tunnel." He unlocked the steel door with the same mechanical key that operated the restaurant's old cellar. Cold air moved from the darkness beyond it. The passage descended beneath brick arches, stained by decades of moisture. Rusted signs marked examination rooms, a pharmacy, and a children's ward that no longer appeared on any public hospital plan. Luca closed the door behind them without locking it. "You left it open," Elena said. "Marco needs an exit, and Gabriel's men can follow. They already control the other side." Luca accepted the answer. They moved through the passage, with Elena carrying the ledger beneath her coat and Luca keeping the pistol low. The old clinic had been abandoned but not forgotten. Fresh footprints marked the dust. Electric cables had been strung along the walls. A camera above the first arch turned toward them with a small motorized click. Gabriel's voice emerged from a speaker. "You came alone. That is almost trust. Show me Eli," Elena said. "You will see him when you reach Mercy Room 3. He needs surgery. He needs the truth more." Luca stopped beneath the camera. "If the boy dies, you lose the only witness who can verify your story. My story does not require a witness. It requires 2 signatures." Elena looked at Luca. Gabriel continued. "The Mercy Fund was built with divided authority. A Moretti heir could command the money. A compliance officer could command the patient records. Your mother chose Elena years before either of you understood why. I was never appointed to the Mercy Fund," Elena said. "David appointed you by transferring his access when he died. David did not know he would die. He knew I had taken him." Elena's steps stopped. Luca's face became harder. "You killed him." "Not immediately." Gabriel's voice remained calm. "He had 3 days to reconsider his loyalty." Elena forced herself forward. Rage wanted speed. Her profession had taught her that urgency was where systems broke. She would not give Gabriel another broken choice. "Why do you need my signature?" she asked. "At midnight. The fund's dormant assets transfer under the emergency charter. Luca's approval releases the money. Yours releases the protected names. You want the patients. I want the people who have survived by owing nothing to anyone. Judges, doctors, witnesses, wives who disappeared from violent husbands, children whose fathers believed blood was ownership. Mercy created a population no family could control. Your solution is to control them yourself. My solution is to stop pretending kindness has no price." Luca's voice cut through the speaker. "My mother prohibited collection. Your mother was sentimental. She was the only Moretti you feared." The camera stopped moving. Gabriel did not answer for several seconds. "Mercy Room 3. He finally said. 27 minutes. The passage opened into a circular receiving room with 3 doors. The first carried the silver lamp seal. The second was marked with a red cross. The third had no sign. Only a narrow observation window painted black from the other side. Elena approached the sealed door. The bracelet around her wrist warmed when she brought it near the lock. A green light appeared. "The bracelet is an access key," she said. Luca examined the frame. "The blood is not Eli's identification. The seal is. Someone created it before the ambulance arrived. Gabriel wanted you through this door." Elena did not remove her wrist. "Then he expects us to follow the obvious route." She opened the second door instead. It led into an old examination room. Cabinets stood open. Most shelves were empty, but a steel drawer near the floor carried David's initials in faded marker. Elena knelt. The drawer was locked. She tried the Mercy bracelet. Nothing happened. Luca pointed toward a shallow diagonal groove beneath the handle. It matched the authorization mark on the forged order. "The ring impression," he said. "I no longer have the ring. Gabriel does. Or my father left another." Elena removed the execution order from the ledger's second cover and pressed its raised mark into the groove. The drawer released. Inside lay old patient charts, a small dictation recorder, and a sealed envelope addressed to Luca. The handwriting belonged to David. Elena touched the envelope, but did not open it. "It was meant for you." Luca looked at her. "You found it. That does not make it mine." He took the envelope and broke the seal. The first page carried no greeting. "Luca, if Elena brings you this ledger, then she has done the thing I could not ask her to do. She has chosen a living child over every promise made to powerful men. Do not forgive her quickly. Do not condemn her before you read the rest." Luca continued in silence until his expression changed. Elena waited. He gave her the page. David had written that Luca's father, Vittorio Moretti, had not died on the date announced to the public. He had suffered kidney failure after years of untreated illness and had been moved secretly into St. Agnes through the Mercy Fund. Gabriel controlled access to the private room. David treated him. Eli, who had been waiting for David after school, entered the corridor at the wrong moment and saw Gabriel inject something into Vittorio's intravenous line. The child hid beneath a linen cart and heard Gabriel tell Vittorio that Luca would inherit the title while Gabriel inherited the machinery beneath it. Vittorio survived the injection long enough to tell David where the original Mercy Charter was hidden. He ordered David to protect Eli and inform Luca only after Gabriel was removed. "My father knew Gabriel would kill the boy," Luca said. "He also knew you might protect Gabriel out of loyalty." Elena read the next lines. David believed Luca was capable of mercy, but not yet capable of admitting how much violence his power required. Vittorio feared Luca would confront Gabriel directly, beginning a war inside the family before the evidence could survive. David placed Eli under the fund, hid the charter pages in the ledger, and tried to reach Luca privately. Gabriel intercepted every request. "This proves the order was forged," Elena said. David copied the ink formula and the ring impression. Luca opened the final page. "There is more." David described the emergency safeguard inside the Mercy Fund charter. If the family leader and the compliance guardian jointly declared the fund corrupted, every account would freeze. Every patient record would transfer to an independent hospital trust, and all hidden financial records would release automatically to state investigators. The safeguard could save the protected families. It would also expose every Moretti payment connected to bribery, smuggling, intimidation, and false businesses. Activating Mercy meant ending the empire that financed it. Elena looked at Luca. "Your mother designed a choice no boss would willingly make. She knew the family." Luca turned on the old recorder. David's voice emerged through static. "Luca, if you hear this, Gabriel has already used Elena's fear against her. Do not ask whether she betrayed you. Ask why a woman who knew every account believed the police were safer than your Mercy." The recording paused, then continued. "Elena, if you hear this, I was wrong to ask you to trust Luca without giving you proof. Love does not make secrecy kind. I protected you by removing your choice. That was still control." Elena closed her eyes. David's voice had not changed in 6 years. It remained patient, warm, and tired. Eli saw Gabriel kill Vittorio. Gabriel forged Luca's order because he wanted you to move before you could think. If you call the police, some men will die. If you do nothing, Eli will. There is no clean choice. I am sorry I left you alone inside it. The recording clicked. Another section began. David's breathing sounded rough. Gabriel has me. He wants the ledger. Luca may receive a call. I told Gabriel that Luca would trade anything for Elena, even if he hated her. I do not know whether I was right. Luca reached for the stop button. Elena caught his wrist. Let it play. You do not need to hear this. That is my decision. Luca released the machine. David's final message continued. Luca, if Gabriel calls, do not give him the ledger unless Elena is safe. She will tell you to choose me. Do not. The records protect more people than I can name. Tell her I knew she cared for you. Tell her I was not betrayed by a feeling. I was betrayed only when all of us decided truth belonged to someone else. The recorder ended. Elena felt the room tilt around her. Luca stood beside the open drawer. Unable to look at her, Gabriel called you. She said, it was not a question. Yes. When, the night after the raid, David was alive. Yes. What did Gabriel demand? The ledger and the Mercy charter. What did you say? Luca's silence became an answer. Elena moved away from him. What did you say? I told him David could burn with the rest of the traitors. The words landed without defense. Luca did not blame grief, rage, or the men he had lost. I believed David helped you arrange the raid. Gabriel played part of the recording and stopped before David explained anything. I heard his voice. I knew he was alive. I refused the exchange. Elena pressed one hand against the examination table. Her knees weakened. But she did not sit. David had spent 3 days in Gabriel's custody. Luca had possessed proof of life and chosen punishment. You let me bury a burned body without telling me, he called. I was told the body was his. You still knew he had been alive after the raid. Yes, for 6 years. You let me believe he died before anyone could help him. Yes, Luca's honesty did not make the act smaller. It only prevented another lie. Elena removed the bloodstained bracelet and placed it on the table. Do not touch me. I will not. Do not call what you did grief. I will not. Do not ask me to understand. I will not. The boundary stood between them. Clean and necessary. Gabriel's voice returned through the speaker. Now you know which betrayal killed your husband. Elena looked at the camera. You killed him. Luca refused to save him. Both can be true. Gabriel's silence suggested he had expected her anger to divide more neatly. 20 minutes. He said, Mercy Room 3. The speaker clicked off. Luca closed David's letter and placed it inside the ledger. You should take the passage back. Elena looked at him. Eli is ahead. I will bring him out. You do not get to make that choice for me after what I learned. Gabriel will use me to hurt you. He already did. Elena, you asked what repair looks like. Luca stopped. Tell me. You follow my plan. You disclose every Moretti record. You do not bargain for your position, your money, or your freedom. And when Gabriel is in front of you, you do not kill him unless death is the only way to stop him from killing someone else. Luca's gaze hardened. He murdered my father and David. Yes, he shot Eli. Probably. And you want mercy? No. Elena took the ledger from the table. I want accountability that survives him. Killing him is not mercy. It is silence. Luca looked toward the black observation window. If I activate the safeguard, the organization ends. That is the cost. Men who depend on me become exposed, then warn the innocent and surrender the guilty. You make it sound simple. No, I make it sound necessary. Luca picked up the recorder and placed it inside his coat. Your plan, it was not forgiveness. It was obedience to the boundary he had earned. Elena returned the bracelet to her wrist and opened the first door bearing the silver lamp. The corridor beyond had been renovated recently. White paint covered the old bricks. New cameras watched from the ceiling. Patient rooms lined one side, each with opaque glass. Elena checked the first. Empty. The second held medical supplies. In the third, an intravenous pump continued running beside an unoccupied bed. Fresh blood marked the sheet. Eli was here, she said. Luca examined the floor. Wheel tracks led toward a small chapel at the end of the corridor. The double doors stood open. Candles burned along both walls despite the hospital's fire regulations. Gabriel waited near the altar. Age had thinned him, but it had not softened him. His dark suit fit perfectly. Luca's father's ring shone on his right hand. Eli lay on a hospital gurney beside the altar, with an oxygen mask over his face and a bandage around his abdomen. His skin looked gray. A transfusion line entered his arm. No doctor stood nearby. 2 armed men guarded the side doors. He needs an operating room, Elena said. Gabriel looked at her with the weary patience of a man correcting a child. He needed one an hour ago. Then send him. After the transfer, he may die before midnight. That would simplify the witness problem. Luca raised his pistol. One guard placed a weapon against Eli's chest. Luca lowered his aim. Gabriel smiled, still governed by attachment. You mistake restraint for weakness. Luca said, Your father said the same thing before I stopped his heart. Elena moved toward Eli. The guard blocked her. Let her examine him. Luca said, She is not a doctor. Gabriel replied, She is his guardian. She became that by marrying the wrong man. Elena looked at the monitor. Eli's pulse remained fast but regular. Blood continued moving through the line. The wound had been stabilized temporarily. Gabriel needed him alive until the signatures were complete, because Eli's testimony was leverage, and because Elena would not cooperate after his death. You are keeping him alive, she said. For now. Then you believe we can still refuse? Gabriel's expression cooled. Bring the ledger. Elena placed it on a small table halfway between the altar and the gurney. She kept one hand on the red cover. Explain the transfer. The Mercy Fund holds assets your police friends never found. Clinics, apartment buildings, emergency accounts, identities, judges who were once patients, and the names of people who would burn this city to keep their new lives hidden. At midnight, Luca signs as family leader. You sign as compliance guardian. Control moves to the Vieri Foundation. And if we refuse, the fund freezes under the old charter. Patient records released to every Moretti captain before the independent trust receives them. Some of those men will hunt the people their fathers failed to find. The safeguard sends records directly to the hospital trust. Elena said. Gabriel glanced at the ledger. David told you. Your version is a lie. My version is an improvement. I modified the routing system years ago. If you activate the safeguard without my override, the names go to both destinations. Luca looked at Elena. Gabriel continued. You can surrender control to me and preserve the patients, or expose them while destroying Luca's family. Mercy requires a manager willing to make unpleasant choices. You mean a jailer? Elena said. Names are safer when someone owns the doors. That is what violent men always say. Gabriel tapped the ring against the altar. 17 minutes. Elena opened the ledger to the original charter page. The main columns showed medical payments. The hidden second cover carried the safeguard. Gabriel needed her to validate which record set was genuine. Luca needed to sign away family control. The technical system remained simple. Beneath the language, one signature moved the money. The other moved the names. Gabriel wanted both. Elena searched the charter for David's marks. A tiny lamp symbol appeared beside 3 sections. She remembered the Mercy Fund phrase, a lamp between 2 open hands. 2 authorities held the light. Neither owned it. Beneath the compliance paragraph, David had drawn a line connecting 3 patient numbers. The final digits matched the bracelet around Elena's wrist. This bracelet is not only Eli's access key, she said. It is the original compliance token. Gabriel's fingers stopped tapping. Elena understood. He had created the bracelet to lure her and open the old clinic. But the seal came from an original Mercy Fund blank, stored inside St. Agnes. Its embedded code could verify the unmodified charter. Gabriel needed Elena to place the bracelet against the transfer terminal because his copied seal could move money but not patient custody. "Where is the terminal?" she asked. Gabriel nodded toward the altar. A screen rose from the wood panel behind it. 2 metal pads sat beneath the display. One carried the Moretti crest. The other carried the silver lamp. Luca's blood authorization and your bracelet, Gabriel said. Then, the ledger code. What happens to Eli? He goes to surgery. First, after. Elena walked toward the gurney. The guard stepped closer. He needs pressure on the wound and a surgeon, she said. Your demand does not change his body, Gabriel gestured. The guard allowed her to pass. Elena checked the bandage without removing it. Blood had begun spreading along the lower edge. Eli's eyelids moved. Eli, she whispered. It is Elena. His fingers shifted weakly. She took his hand. You brought him. He breathed through the oxygen mask. Luca is here. Eli opened his eyes enough to see the man standing near the aisle. Fear moved through his face. Not him. Elena leaned closer. Who ring? His gaze moved toward Gabriel's hand. He killed the old man. I know. David said Luca would come. He did. Eli's eyes filled. David called him. Elena's grip tightened, but she kept her voice calm. You heard Gabriel made me listen. Luca stood far enough away that Elena could choose whether to include him. She looked at Eli. Do you want Luca to hear you? Eli hesitated, then nodded. Elena called him closer. Luca approached without touching the bed. Eli's voice weakened. David told Gabriel you would trade the whole family for her. He looked at Elena. Gabriel said you chose the ledger. Luca did not deny it. I did. David kept saying you would change your mind. I did not. Why? Because I wanted Elena punished more than I wanted the truth. Eli's breathing caught. He died thinking he was wrong about you. Luca accepted the sentence as if it had weight. He was right about what I could become. He was wrong about how long I would take. Gabriel laughed softly from the altar. Confession is cheaper than consequence. Luca looked back at him. Not tonight. Elena saw a small white tab beneath Eli's bracelet bandage. A second hospital tag had been folded under the gauze. She eased it free. It carried a Mercy Fund number different from the one on the bloodstained bracelet she wore. David's lamp marks inside the ledger connected the 2 numbers. One belonged to the protected patient. The other belonged to the guardian. Gabriel had made a mistake when his people prepared the first bracelet before Eli arrived. They had printed Elena's guardian authorization beneath Eli's name. The Bloodstained Bracelet was not Eli's patient key. It was Elena's compliance credential disguised as his. The true patient tag remained on his wrist. "You built the system from copied records," Elena said. "You assigned the wrong number to the bracelet." Gabriel's face remained still. "It opened the door. Because Guardian Access opens the clinic. It cannot release the patient list. Your signature can. Only when the Guardian number is paired with the correct patient token." Elena held up Ellie's hidden tag. "You need both. And you did not know there were two." Gabriel's blind spot had always been the human relationship beneath the record. He saw patient and guardian as interchangeable leverage. The original Mercy Charter did not. "Bring me the tag," he said. "Send Eli to surgery." "The tag first." Elena looked at the guard beside the gurney. "You work for the Mercy Fund." The man did not answer. "Then you know the rule. Treatment is never collected as debt." Gabriel's voice sharpened. "Do not speak to him." Elena kept her gaze on the guard. "A patient wearing that seal receives care before family orders. That is the first rule." The guard's pistol lowered a fraction. Gabriel noticed. "Your brother's treatment was paid from my account." He told the man, "Your debt belongs to me." "That is not what the seal means," Elena said. "It means no debt." The guard's uncertainty changed power in the room. Gabriel had controlled people by converting mercy into obligation. The original rule gave them a moral exit. Luca spoke without raising his weapon. "Take Eli to the surgical elevator. No one will punish your family. You no longer command anyone." Gabriel said, "I am not commanding him." Luca looked at the guard. "I am promising that I will surrender every record showing your debt." The man looked toward the second guard. Neither moved. Gabriel drew a pistol from beneath his jacket and aimed at Elena. "The tag." Luca stepped between them. "You need her alive. Until the transfer." "Then lower the gun." Gabriel's smile disappeared. "You still think protection is standing in front of a woman after ignoring the man who begged you to save her." Elena's boundary held. "Luca." Beside me. He moved from directly in front of her to her right side, giving her a clear view and the freedom to act. Gabriel saw the correction and hated it. "Ton minute," he said. "Place both tokens on the altar." Elena whispered to Eli, "I am going to move away. The guard may take you to surgery. Do not fight him." Eli nodded weakly. Elena carried the true patient tag and the guardian bracelet toward the transfer terminal. Luca walked beside her. She opened a ledger at the original charter and placed it beneath the screen. The terminal requested family authorization. Luca pressed his thumb against the Moretti pad. A red light scanned him. The screen displayed Luca Moretti, active family authority. Beneath it appeared two choices: transfer control or declare corruption. Gabriel raised his weapon toward Eli. "Transfer." Elena examined the display. "The safeguard has not been modified. The patient route was modified outside this terminal. Then the screen should warn us." "It does not. Because you are lying about the duplicate release." Gabriel stepped closer. "Test it and find out." Elena looked at the ledger's financial columns. Gabriel's payments to St. Agnes followed a repeating sequence: 3 medical transfers, 1 security expense, then a blank line. Every fourth blank represented an external routing account. She had studied the numbers for 6 years without understanding the empty spaces. Now she saw that David had removed the patient destinations from the visible ledger and stored them beneath the second cover. Gabriel could access the money, but he could not access the true names. His claim that the patient records would go to Moretti captains was impossible because he did not possess them. The original records remained protected behind the guardian and patient tokens. You never modified the patient route, Elena said. You only modified the money. Gabriel's jaw tightened. The names are already copied. Then you would not need my bracelet. The first small victory landed. Gabriel's goal narrowed. He needed Elena's credential because the protected names remained beyond his control. Declare corruption, she told Luca. Gabriel pointed the gun at Eli's transfusion line. Touch that choice, and he bleeds before the elevator opens. Luca's hand remained on the pad. Your plan, he said to Elena. Chosen trust held under pressure. Elena looked at the guard by Eli. First rule, the man's gaze lowered to the Mercy seal. Treatment before debt. Elena said it again. Treatment before debt. The guard pulled the gurney backward. Gabriel turned his weapon toward him. Luca moved only after Elena said, Now. He struck Gabriel's wrist. The pistol fired into the chapel ceiling. The second guard drew on Luca. The first guard shoved Eli's gurney through the side doors and blocked the line of fire with his own body. Elena pressed the true patient tag against the silver lamp pad. The surgical elevator at the far end of the corridor opened automatically. Hospital staff waited beyond it, summoned by the valid patient token. They took Eli and closed the doors. Gabriel tore free from Luca and hit the altar control. Steel shutters dropped across the chapel exits. Luca disarmed the second guard, but Gabriel retrieved a second pistol, taped beneath the altar. He aimed at Elena. Transfer control. The screen continued, requesting the Guardian credential. Elena still wore the bloodstained bracelet. The boy is beyond your reach, she said. Not the other patients. You do not know their names. I know enough locations. Then you would already be killing them. Gabriel's eyes changed. He had spent 6 years building leverage and could not tolerate the truth that he still lacked ownership. You think Luca will sacrifice his family for strangers? His mother did. His mother died because she believed kindness could survive men. Luca returned his thumb to the family pad. Declare corruption. The screen produced a warning. Activation will release all family financial records to independent review. Family authority will terminate. Asset protection will end. Luca read every line. Gabriel laughed. Your captains will lose businesses, homies, and protection. Men who trusted your name will go to prison. Men who committed crimes may. Luca said. And you? Elena asked. He looked at her. Me too. The cost was clear. No hidden pardon waited behind the choice. Activating the safeguard could expose Luca's crimes and end his power. Do it, Elena said. Gabriel fired. Luca pushed Elena aside. But the bullet struck his shoulder, where the earlier scar disappeared beneath his collar. He fell against the altar. Elena caught him before he reached the floor. Gabriel moved toward the ledger. Elena closed the red cover and pulled it against her chest. Give it to me. You cannot complete the transfer without Luca's living authorization. He is alive. For now. Then press his hand to the pad. Elena looked at the blood spreading through Luca's shirt. His eyes remained open. Do you choose it? She asked. The safeguard, yes. Even if it destroys everything. Not everything. His gaze moved toward the surgical elevator where Eli had disappeared. Do it. Elena helped him stand. Gabriel aimed at her head. Transfer control. Luca pressed his bleeding hand against the family pad. The screen recognized the blood pattern and waited for selection. Elena opened the ledger's second cover. Gabriel watched the original charter pages. He expected her to use the visible authorization number. Instead, she removed David's letter and placed the black inner cover against the lamp scanner. A second code appeared beneath the scorched red leather. The burn mark was not damage. It concealed the original safeguard seal. The central object changed meaning again. The ledger had never only recorded crimes. Luca's mother had built the means to end them into its spine. Mercy can be stolen, Elena said, but not if the truth remains under the damage. She pressed Declare Corruption. Luca confirmed. The screen requested the compliance guardian. Elena placed the bloodstained bracelet against the silver pad. Her name appeared. Elena Shaw, successor, guardian. She selected Release to Independent Trust. The terminal began a 60-second verification. Gabriel's control finally broke. He fired at the screen. The bullet cracked the glass, but did not stop the process. He grabbed the ledger and pulled. Elena held the hidden black cover while the red outer book tore along its repaired seam. Pages scattered across the altar. Gabriel seized the visible ledger and threw it into a candle stand. Flame climbed the red leather. You burned the wrong cover, Elena said. The true charter remained in her hands. Gabriel lunged toward her. Luca intercepted him despite the blood loss. They struck the altar and fell against the steps. Gabriel drove the pistol toward Luca's ribs. Elena saw the gun, the burning ledger, and the verification countdown. 28 seconds. She could protect the charter, stop the fire, or help Luca. One object, one objective, one villain. The ledger's financial pages could burn because the terminal had already begun releasing digital copies. The charter still needed verification. Luca had chosen to surrender power. Elena's choice would determine whether the sacrifice completed. Luca, she called. Move left. He trusted her without seeing the reason. Luca shifted. Elena swung the heavy black inner cover against Gabriel's gun hand. The weapon fell beneath the altar. Gabriel struck her across the face and grabbed the guardian bracelet. The plastic clasp snapped. But Elena caught the silver seal before it hit the floor. The terminal displayed 12 seconds. Gabriel reached for the pad. Elena pressed the loose seal against it with her burned palm. Verification continued. Gabriel wrapped one hand around her throat. Luca seized him from behind and pulled him away. Gabriel drove an elbow into Luca's wounded shoulder. Luca collapsed. Gabriel reached for the fallen pistol. Elena saw it first. She kicked it across the chapel tiles. Using the weight and balance other people had underestimated throughout her life, the pistol slid beneath the locked side door. Verification reached 3 seconds. Gabriel grabbed a brass candle holder and raised it over Luca's head. Luca drew the knife from his belt. He could have driven it beneath Gabriel's ribs. Elena met his gaze. Alive. The word held David. Vittorio. The protected families. And every truth that death could silence. Luca changed the angle of the blade. He cut the candleholder strap from Gabriel's wrist, twisted his arm, and forced him face down across the altar steps. You will answer for every person. Luca said, You have no family left. Gabriel hissed. The terminal chimed. Corruption verified. Family authority terminated. Records released. Patient trust secured. Luca looked at the broken Moretti crest on the screen. Then the family becomes the people who survived us. Gabriel reached into his sleeve and produced a thin syringe. the potassium chloride from the cooler. He drove it toward Luca's neck. Elena caught his wrist with both hands. The needle stopped inches from Luca's skin. Gabriel was stronger. But Elena controlled the angle. She forced his hand toward the altar until the syringe struck the wooden surface and shattered. Luca pulled Gabriel backward and pinned him again. The villain's final countermove failed because Elena used the seeded object and Luca chose restraint over revenge. The steel shutters began rising as the independent trust took control of the building's Mercy access. Sirens sounded beyond the hospital. They did not arrive by miracle. Marco had been instructed to contact Lena and emergency services once the tunnel signal returned. And the safeguard itself released the clinic location with the records. Hospital security loyal to Gabriel fled through the public corridors. The first guard who moved Eli remained beside the surgical elevator with his weapon on the floor. Medical staff entered the chapel and treated Luca before police crossed the threshold. Elena maintained custody of the black inner cover. The original charter pages, David's letter, and the surviving ledger sheets. She photographed the burned red cover before firefighters extinguished it. Gabriel was arrested alive. The Moretti accounts froze before dawn. Every protected patient record transferred to an independent board led by St. Agnes physicians, legal advocates, and former Mercy Fund patients. The names did not become public. Only the financial trails and evidence of crimes went to investigators. Gabriel had lied about the safeguard because he believed Luca would never risk his empire to test it. Luca proved him wrong at the cost of everything he had commanded. Eli survived surgery. The bullet had damaged his liver but missed the major artery Gabriel's men claimed was failing. He remained unconscious for 2 days. Elena stayed at St. Agnes without leaving, except to answer investigators. Luca underwent surgery in another wing under police guard. His family authority had terminated, and several outstanding investigations became active as soon as the records opened. Elena did not visit him. The boundary she set in Mercy Room 3 did not disappear because he had finally made the right choice. David was still dead. Luca had still refused the call that might have saved him. Mercy did not require Elena to make pain convenient for the man who caused it. When Eli woke, his first question was whether Gabriel had the ledger. Elena showed him the black inner cover sealed inside a clear evidence sleeve. He burned the part he understood. She said, "The part that mattered survived." Eli looked toward the window. David said Luca would come. He came. Did he save me? Elena considered the answer. He helped. So did a guard who stopped obeying Gabriel. So did the hospital staff. So did you, when you remembered the bracelet numbers. Did Luca kill him? No. Eli closed his eyes with relief. David did not want him to. Elena touched the bed rail rather than Eli's injured side. David believed Mercy could reveal whether a man had truly changed. Did it? It revealed the cost he was willing to pay. Change takes longer. Gabriel's testimony began after prosecutors showed him the surviving charter, David's recording, hospital access logs, forged execution order, and the Mercy Fund's financial trail. His statement supported the evidence but did not replace it. The gray ink on the order matched a private notary kit found in his river property. Luca's father's ring carried traces of the same ink inside its crest. Hospital records confirmed Vittorio Moretti lived 2 weeks beyond his public death date. Medication logs showed Gabriel entered his room minutes before the fatal cardiac event. Eli's childhood therapy notes documented his repeated description of the ring. Linen cart and silver lamp years before anyone reopened the case. David's burned remains were re-examined. Investigators found he had died from injuries before the car fire. Gabriel had kept him alive for 3 days, trying to force him to reveal the ledger's location and the safeguard code. David never did. Elena's betrayal had not caused his capture. Gabriel had already placed men near the Shaw home after forging the execution order. The raid gave him cover to take David. But the plan existed before Elena contacted police. That truth removed one false burden. It did not erase the consequences of her choice. Elena testified about copying schedules, misleading Luca, and bringing police to the warehouse. She did not present herself as innocent because her motive had been protective. Families of the men killed during the raid heard why she acted. Some believed her. Some did not. Luca's cousin's mother told Elena she would never forgive her. Elena answered that she understood. She did not ask grief to become fair. Luca pleaded guilty to financial crimes, obstruction, and conspiracy connected to businesses exposed by the Mercy records. He also admitted authorizing Celia relocations, intimidation payments, and false contracts unrelated to Gabriel's scheme. His cooperation helped separate protected Mercy patients from criminal associates. But it did not buy innocence. The court placed him in federal custody while sentencing continued. Men who once stood when he entered a room stopped returning his calls. Several legitimate restaurants closed. Others transferred to employee ownership under court supervision. Marco chose to cooperate and entered a protection agreement after providing evidence about Gabriel's men. He visited Luca once before relocation. "The family says you destroyed us," Marco said through the glass. Luca looked at the prison uniform, replacing his suits. "We destroyed ourselves. I only stopped hiding the records. Do you regret it? Ask me when Eli is old enough to live without guards." Elena refused Luca's first 3 requests for a visit. The 4th contained no apology, no defense, and no request for forgiveness. It contained a copy of David's final letter, which prosecutors had returned, and one handwritten sentence: "I will not ask you to shorten the distance my choice created. I will remain where consequence places me." Elena kept the letter without answering. 3 months later, she sent Luca a list of questions. Why had he allowed the Mercy Fund to close after his mother died? How many warnings had he ignored because they came from people without power? What did he believe protection meant now? Luca answered each in writing. He did not use polished language. He admitted that closing the fund had made him feel stronger because no one could invoke his mother's values against him. He admitted that he treated gratitude as loyalty and loyalty as permission. He wrote that protection meant giving someone enough safety to make a choice he might dislike. Elena sent another question. "What would you have done if I had chosen not to activate the safeguard?" Luca answered. "I would have wanted to force your hand. I hope I would have remembered that wanting control is not the same as having the right." Their correspondence continued without becoming romance immediately. Elena told him about Eli's recovery, the Independent Mercy Board, and the families whose care continued after the accounts froze. She also told him when anger returned. Luca did not answer anger with self-punishment designed to make her comfort him. He acknowledged the damage and described the actions he was taking. He gave investigators every location connected to Gabriel's network. He surrendered property his attorneys might have protected. He requested that money from the sale of his private collection fund, the Mercy Board, without Moretti naming rights. The board accepted only after Elena and the other trustees established that Luca would receive no control, tax advantage, or public credit. Eli returned home 6 months after the shooting. He walked with a cane while his abdominal muscles recovered. He had spent years avoiding the memory of St. Agnes. Yet he chose to volunteer with the new Mercy Center once a week. His first task was filing anonymous assistance requests by number rather than name. Elena watched him place each file inside the correct cabinet. David would be proud, she said. He would tell me the labels are crooked. He would fix them after pretending not to care. Eli smiled, then looked toward the clear case, holding the black inner ledger cover. Are you going to see Luca? Not today. Do you still love him? Elena did not answer quickly. I loved what I believed he could become before I understood what he had done. That is not what I asked. No, it is the answer I have. Eli considered it. David loved you, even when he knew. David also hid choices from me. He thought hiding was protection. So did Luca. And Gabriel. Elena looked at him. Eli's insight carried no softness toward Gabriel. The difference, he said, is what they did after they learned they were wrong. 1 year after the night at the restaurant, Luca received his sentence. His cooperation, surrender of assets, and role in protecting the Mercy patients reduced the term prosecutors requested. But he still faced years in federal custody. Elena attended the hearing without sitting with his attorneys. Luca looked at her only once. He did not smile or interpret her presence as forgiveness. When the judge asked whether he wished to speak, Luca admitted that his organization had called fear protection, called obedience, loyalty, and called selective kindness mercy. I believed sparing someone proved I was better than the men before me. He said, I understand now that mercy without accountability is only power congratulating itself. He accepted the sentence. Elena visited him 2 months later. The meeting room divided them with thick glass. Luca appeared leaner, his hair more silver, the bullet scar visible above the collar of his prison shirt. Thank you for coming, he said. Do not make it larger than it is. I will not. Elena placed David's letter on the table beside her. I read your answers. I tried to make them honest. Honesty is not repair by itself. I know. Eli wants to speak to you eventually. Luca's expression changed. Only when he chooses. Yes. Elena studied the man who had once given her 1 hour to justify why he should spare her. Why did you spare me that night? At first. Because David saved my mother, and I could not kill his widow without hearing why he died. And after, because you stood beside a ledger that could destroy me and cared more about a boy in surgery than whether I believed you. That sounds like admiration. It was. Not mercy. No. Luca rested his hands on the table where she could see them. Mercy came later. When you asked me to leave Gabriel alive, I understood that sparing someone does not mean removing the consequence. It means refusing to become the final instrument of their violence. Elena looked through the glass. I am still angry. You should be. Do not tell me what I should feel. You are right. The correction remained immediate. I will listen. Elena stayed for 40 minutes. She left before the full hour ended because the choice mattered. Their visits continued every few months. Attraction returned quietly, no longer fed by forbidden rooms or unsaid promises. Trust grew through consistency. Luca never asked Elena to wait for him. Elena never promised she would. He learned about her life through what she chose to share. She reopened a small compliance office inside the Mercy Center, helping hospitals protect charity funds from political and criminal control. Her full figure no longer disappeared beneath morning black every day. She wore deep blue, burgundy, and warm gray. She took up space at board meetings, challenged donors, and refused agreements that turned help into ownership. Eli completed his degree in social work and began assisting young witnesses who feared official systems. David's photograph remained on Elena's desk. She did not remove her husband to make room for Luca. Love did not require one truth to evict another. 2 years later, Luca moved to a lower security facility after further cooperation, recovered 3 missing Mercy patients. Elena visited with Eli. Luca stood when they entered, then waited. Eli approached the glass first. "David thought you would save him," he said. Luca's face held the old wound without hiding behind it. "I failed him. He also thought you could change. I am trying. That is not an apology." "No." Luca looked at him directly. "I am sorry I chose punishment over his life. I am sorry I allowed your fear to last 6 years because I preferred the story that made Elena guilty. I cannot repair David. I can tell the truth every time it costs me something." Eli nodded once. "That is what Elena says." He sat. Their conversation lasted 20 minutes. Eli asked about Vittorio, the Mercy Fund, and why Luca's family had needed hidden clinics. Luca answered without romanticizing the organization. Before leaving, Eli placed his old bloodstained patient bracelet against the glass. They gave this back. Luca looked at the silver lamp. "Your choice. What happens to it? The Mercy Center wants it for the archive. Then it belongs there." After the visit, Elena remained while Eli waited outside. Luca looked at her. "May I ask something personal?" "Yes." "Are you still waiting to decide whether I can become the man David believed I could?" Elena considered the question. "No." Luca's face remained still. "I stopped waiting. I understand." "You misunderstand." She moved closer to the glass. "Waiting makes your change responsible for my life. It is not. I built a life. You are building yours. What happens between them must be chosen in the present, not promised as a reward for suffering." Hope appeared carefully. "Is there a present choice when you are released? You may ask me to dinner. May I choose the restaurant?" "No." Lucas smiled for the first time that day. Understood. He served the remainder of his sentence without special protection, bought through family influence. When threats increased, he accepted ordinary institutional safeguards rather than ordering retaliation outside. He continued providing evidence. Some former allies called him a traitor. Luca did not claim moral courage for telling truths he had once hidden. He treated cooperation as debt. The only public statement he authorized concerned the Mercy Fund. It credited his mother, David Shaw, Elena, Ellie, the hospital staff, and the unnamed patients who survived. His own name appeared only in the section identifying individuals whose control had ended. Elena kept that copy. Nearly 4 years after the night of the Bloodstained Bracelet, Luca was released under strict supervision. He owned no criminal organization, no private security company, and no restaurant umpire. The court allowed him a modest apartment and employment, with one remaining legitimate food distributor operated by an independent board. On his 3rd evening outside custody, he called Elena. "May I ask you to dinner?" "You may." Friday 7. Where the Mercy Center kitchen. Luca paused. "That is not a restaurant. You no longer need waiters to prove you can afford a table." "Fair." Dinner consisted of soup prepared by Mercy volunteers, bread from a neighborhood bakery, and coffee Elena made herself. Luca arrived without guards. He asked before taking the chair beside her, rather than across from her. They spoke about ordinary things first. Eli's work, Elena's board, Luca's difficulty understanding a bus schedule after years of drivers, The simplicity carried its own intimacy. When the building emptied, Luca walked Elena to the archive room. The restored red ledger rested inside a clear case. Conservators had stabilized the burned outer cover without hiding the tear. The black inner cover lay open beneath it, displaying the original safeguard seal. David's letter remained protected in a separate drawer. The blood-stained hospital bracelet rested beside the ledger. "You kept the blood," Luca said. "We stabilized it." "Why?" "Because cleaning every stain would make the object lie." Luca looked at the ledger that had recorded crimes, carried mercy, caused betrayal, and ended his authority. "May I touch the case?" "Yes." He placed 2 fingers against the glass. "My father believed this book proved ownership. Your mother made it capable of surrender. David made it survive. Eli made us open it." Luca turned toward Elena. "And you made the choice. We both signed. You understood what the signature meant before I did." Silence settled between them without becoming uncomfortable. "May I tell you something without asking for an answer?" he said. "Yes. I loved you before the raid. I called it respect because love would have required me to question the life I expected you to enter. When you betrayed me, hatred was easier than admitting you had seen something in my world that made betrayal feel moral." Elena looked at David's sealed letter. "I loved you then too. That did not make my secrecy fair to David. No. And loving you now would not make the past disappear. No. Good." She faced him again. "Because I will not build love from edited records." Luca's voice lowered. "Neither will I." Elena stepped closer. "May I kiss you?" His surprise lasted only a heartbeat. Yes. The kiss was gentle, mature, and chosen without debt. It did not reward imprisonment or erase betrayal. It acknowledged that 2 people had survived their worst decisions long enough to make a better one. A year later, the Mercy Center opened a new family clinic in the space, once occupied by the sealed tunnel. The restaurant kitchen became a community dining room. The underground passage remained visible behind reinforced glass. Not as a secret route, but as part of the public archive. Eli led the opening ceremony. Marco attended under a new identity, with permission from his protection officers. Luca stood among volunteers rather than donors. No Moretti name appeared above the door. Elena carried the restored ledger to the archive table and opened it to a clean page added behind the original records. The page held 3 columns: name, mercy received, choice returned. The first entry belonged to Vittorio Moretti, medical refuge received, truth delayed. The second belonged to David Shaw, protection given, choice withheld. The third belonged to Elena, child protected, betrayal admitted. The fourth belonged to Luca, widow spared, empire surrendered. Gabriel's entry appeared lower on the page. Life spared, judgment faced. No one had written forgiveness beside his name. Mercy did not require it. Eli approached with the old bracelet in his hand. "There is one space left," he said. Elena looked at him. "Yours. What goes under mercy received a second life," Luca said. Eli shook his head. "That sounds dramatic. You were shot and survived. Still dramatic." Elena smiled. "Write the truth you can live with." Eli placed the bracelet beside the ledger and wrote, "Ellie Shaw. Care without debt. My name kept." He handed the pen to Luca. Luca did not take it until Elena nodded. Beneath Eli's words, Luca added one final line without placing his own name there. Mercy is not forgetting the wound. It is refusing to pass it forward. Elena read the sentence, then closed the red outer cover gently over the black one without concealing either. Morning light entered through the clinic windows and touched the silver lamp on Eli's bracelet. Luca stood beside Elena, not in front of her. His hand waited open on the table. Elena placed hers inside it by choice, while the ledger rested between them with every burn. Repair, betrayal, and act of mercy still visible.